You're listening to Biz-Souls, the business podcast with an edge, hosted by me, Rona Lewis, and Jeffrey Hansler. Tune in for perspectives and discoveries about the changing world of business. It's time to connect to the heart, soul, and humor of how business gets done. Hello and welcome to Biz-Souls, everybody. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler, and we get to the heart and soul of business and the people that make it happen. And today, Rona and I are making it happen, and the boxing gloves are on. I'm here to support Rona. I'm also here
Not so much.
We have a disagreement on this, and so today's going to be Rona's day. I am going to clarify my disagreement. What are we talking about? What are we talking about, Rona?
We're talking about creativity and brainstorming, the process that people take to come up with innovative ideas. So I wanted to just, and I have to read this because I don't want to get it wrong. When we talk about creative thinking is part of problem solving and innovation. So I'm going to read this. If I can get these on, it's the ability to come up with unique, original solutions that aren't obvious or conventional. It can involve brainstorming methods, and there's a bucket of those, mind mapping, and it's about divergent and convergent thinking, which we'll go over in a second. And it's how you reframe things. And for problem solving and innovation, you need creative thinking because it helps to obviously find creative solutions to complex problems that may not have a clear or single cause. So it helps with change management. Can I say that again? Change management, changing situations. And it fuels innovation and growth by generating new ideas that lead to new products, services, or processes. And, I am not incredibly process oriented. I do a lot of improv and things like that in my play work. And the fact is that creativity and creative thinking does have a process. And it's not the process that you like or believe in or anything like that. So I'm going to share mine. And
am I just going to sit here and listen to you go on and on?
Well, I don't. I keep looking at you, waiting for you to throw in.
I just wanted to give you a chance to talk. I thought you were going to talk about the process. So here's the disagreement. So because of the OD work and because of working with different groups on creativity sessions, the biggest mistake is the number one thing in creativity is non-judgment.
I didn't know you worked with creativity sessions in your OD work.
Always doing it because we have to come up with new solutions all the time.
Got it.
So the biggest thing in creativity is non-judgment. And that's the hardest thing to get people in business to do is not have judgment,
Absolutely.
Just freewheeling and get going. And so that process is separate. So the process, you're absolutely correct. You Google creativity, it goes into, then we have to evaluate the idea. And then the minute you start evaluating ideas, you add judgment. And so for me, it's two distinct steps. Mm-hmm. I mean, two distinct
two parts?
Phases.
Okay.
And you never mix them. So creativity sessions are all about no judgment whatsoever. Never even comes up.
Okay.
All you're doing is collecting ideas, as many ideas as possible, and those go down. And then the meeting comes to an end.
Okay.
Then you have another meeting with innovation. And in that meeting, that's when you start matching the creative ideas to the resources that you have. And so that's very distinct. For me, well, now that I'm going on, for me, working, the creativity is like, everybody goes to the bar and they're having fun and they're playing darts, they're playing pool and they're having fun. And then if you go right into evaluation, that would be like somebody says, stop. Okay, now we're going to have our business meeting for the week. And it's just like, it's just awful. All the joy of the creativity and all the looseness and just letting rip goes away. So anyway, that's my philosophy.
And okay, and I get that. And to a point, I don't disagree with that because what you have just explained is divergent and convergent thinking. In the creative process, you have divergent, and I will go through my stages in a moment. Divergent thinking is, in fact, all about non-judgment. You throw spaghetti against the wall to see what sticks and the possibilities that, even if something is not based in reality, throw it out there because you never know what nuggets that you can, draw off of. And like when I do my exercises that utilize art stuff, we take a little piece of what someone else does and bring it into more of a main area, and that goes somewhere else. So that, in a sense, is a way of taking an idea that is not totally great, and a bit of it could be a nugget of gold. And that's where the convergent thinking comes in. That's where you need to have a little more judgment to enable what you've come up with to come back into the real world and say, you know what? We have to be able to do this to enhance our process so that we can be more productive. And that's where I think you feel the judgment comes, that it's two absolute separate processes.
Right.
So,
And the tools, brainstorming in a creativity session, is just about coming up with new ideas.
Right.
Brainstorming in the innovative session for me is about what are some unique perspectives or ways to have our convergent thinking and utilize and match our ideas to the resources available.
Okay.
What we're stuck
So let me explain my process and where brainstorming comes in
Absolutely.
with this. And so this whole process, if you Google creative thinking, okay, or the process of creative thinking, you will get a couple of different models, and they will be usually between 4 and 6 stages. And these stages will absolutely include what you can consider innovation or innovative thinking. Stage 1 is the preparation. This is where the brainstorming comes in. It's where you gather information, inspiration, resources, you brainstorm, seek advice. The goal is to immerse yourself in the topic and generate as many ideas as possible. This is the true divergent thinking stage where brainstorming comes in, and I'm going to come back to this when we get to my third point, okay?
Yeah, and brainstorming is just one of the tools you've
Correct.
got.
And then stage 2 is incubation. This is kind of the fun part. It's where you let your subconscious mind take over and just kind of mull over the information that it's taken in. And you can take a break, you can go for a run, take a shower. If you're going out with your friends and having fun, that's where you get inspiration and you start writing ideas on napkins, And, I always say the brain hates a hole, that's that hole. So your brain is working on the issues, what you want to solve, and making new connections. So that's the incubation phase. That's unconscious, subconscious, rather.
So I'm in complete agreement.
Okay.
So we've got creativity going on. We're using tools like brainstorming, affiliate matching, whatever you want to use.
Right.
And then you need a pause and that incubation.
Right. And that's when
we're in agreement so
right.
far.
And then that stage 3 is the insight. It kind of goes a lot with the
Incubation.
Thank you. So this is where when you incubate, that's when those sudden flashes in the shower, in the bar, running, whatever it is, comes in.
Right.
And you write, and then you put it down so you don't forget about it. Because I don't know about you, sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh my God, that's a great idea. I have to remember it. And then I go back to sleep, and then I can't remember it in the morning. So I actually sleep with a pad of paper next to my bed so I can write it down, because I forget everything.
Yeah, really.
Anyway, so that's all part of the divergent thinking process.
Absolutely.
And then stage 4 and 5 that I work with are, stage 5 is the evaluation. It's where you assess all the ideas that you have and what's the real feasibility of working with these things. You can critique, you refine, you get feedback from other people. And the goal of this stage is determining whether the answer that you come up with is worth pursuing, or at least trying, and seeing if it works. And then stage 5 is basically doing it. It's where you implement your idea and you design, you prototype, and if it fails, then you go back.
I'm laughing because did you want me to talk? Because I was about to open my mouth and you just stuck your finger
I
out.
did, and I'm like, I'm speaking.
not done.
I am speaking.
Okay.
So yeah. So go ahead.
So here's the thing I see. Models, and this is these
It's
steps
just
are
a model, right?
no. Okay, just hear me out. Can you hear me out?
I'm listening.
Okay.
Now I am listening.
Okay. So the problem is when they write it out this way to somebody that's never run this before, they jump in. First of all, they don't spend enough time coming up with the creative. They don't give enough time for the incubation. They don't give enough time for the insight, and they bleed right into the evaluation. And this is the problem with the segue.
Yeah.
What they did is you had a bunch of very smart people. Bill Gates' Jobs all invested in it. And they truncated the incubation and insight process. And they came out with a product that was commercially a disaster.
Yeah.
Now, since then, as people went on and said, gee, the Segway is a nice idea. Maybe we could make it smaller, lighter, things like that. And that's where that's more of the creativity. They jumped to judgment based on, okay, the Segway was going to be mobile, and then they jumped and said, okay, we're going to use batteries. Well, the batteries are big, so then you need bigger wheels, and then you needed a heavier frame. And then how do we get the gyroscope in there and going? And that's heavy. So next thing you know, you've got a thing that weighs, 500-600 pounds, however, how much it weighs. And it was useless for what it was designed for.
Right.
And so why keep a model? Why keep a model that it's like having a road sign that leads people, that's a bad design?
I don't necessarily think it's a bad design. What I hear you saying is that there's a time limit on it. There is no time limit on this. I've led creativity sessions where we've started on these first 3 stages, stage 1 through prep, incubation, and insight. It's like, okay, let's come back next week and see what everyone has come up with. And we get more ideas. It's not like, okay, we're going to take a half hour and do this. You can't necessarily put a time limit on inspiration. I mean, sometimes, yes, do you have to? Because it's a business. And at the same time, if you make it reasonable, let's take a week or so. You can always come back. You may have an idea when you're getting feedback from somebody else in the evaluation. It's like how, what's his name from Pixar?
Ed Catmull.
Thank you. Ed Catmull gets everyone's feedback from when the movie first comes out. He says that, we need feedback from everyone, from the person who cleans the office to the CFO, so that we get different ideas. That's still part of the creative thinking process. And at that evaluation time, that feedback can spur different ideas. And then you go back to the preparation or, whatever it is, and you rejigger it so it's better.
Yeah, and maybe it's because I'm compartmentalized. I mean, look, if I'm going to the beach, I'm wearing flip-flops, a bathing suit, and maybe a towel, maybe a t-shirt. Okay, I'm not then going to a meeting or going to the office because I'm not going to be wearing that stuff into the office. So I mentally dress for creativity. And I believe that executives have to mentally dress. They have to know they're going to the beach. And the minute you bring in business, now they've got their laptops, now they got their suits, now they got their phones, and they'll never relax. So that's my issue.
Okay.
I'm trying to work with human nature.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing from this, and I think it's a very black and white way of
Is there any other way to
I
be?
know. So, and that's the thing. Yeah, Jeffrey's very black and white. I have a little more gray area. And that's why when I go in and work with leadership teams for play, and, play leads to more creative thinking, we don't have, you should never
Do you color your hair? Is that where the gray area is?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
So what I do is separate meetings. You do not go in for a Monday morning meeting and say, what are we doing for the week? Great. Now we're going to be creative. You can't do it because the brain, yes, we use our whole brain for everything. And when you get into that business mode, you can't switch over so easily.
Actually, we don't use our whole brain for everything. Look, a recent study found out that we use less than 5% of our brain for conscious thought.
Okay.
95% of it is tied doing all the unconscious things that we do.
All right, that you're talking semantics here, and thank you for wanting to be the smartest person in the room. My point is, we think that, basically what I actually used to say is we use the right side of the brain is a little more intuitive. It's a little more creative. The left side is very black and white. So that's why it's the adult mind and the child mind.
Right. And that's a model too.
Right.
It's not really the right and the left side of the brain.
Can you see? And see, he needs to be right. And he knows that that's exactly what I was going to explain. But he needed to throw that in because he wanted to be the smartest person in the room. And that was my point about the fact that we do use both sides of our brain. We lean more on one than the other. So it's very hard to go from one to the other with this. And when you go into a creative session, you just keep it creative. So that's my point with this. Now, there is also a 6th stage called verification, which is kind of where you evaluate the outcome and the impact, and then once you analyze it and like, all right, this was a complete failure, or we added broccoli to the ice cream, that didn't work. Let's go back and see what else we can do. And then that's why it's always a continuing process unless it's absolutely perfect. That all being said, maybe we should go on to my point 3, which is exactly what brainstorming is.
And brainstorming is great. And it's one of the tools you can use for creativity. You can also use brainstorming for the innovation part, the way I see it, separate.
Okay.
To help you, you're brainstorming on how you can utilize the resources differently to get to the idea that you'd like to achieve with it. The result
which you are using creative thinking to get your innovation.
Correct. And no, you haven't. This is what you're not understanding.
What am I not?
The innovative process has judgment. This is what comes out. If people have a choice. I mean, are they going to be non-judgmental or judgmental?
Most say that
again? When most people, their default is judgment.
Okay.
So that's what you're trying to teach them not to do in a creativity session.
Yeah, which is really hard.
We don't want to contaminate that by running into and training them. I don't think, people are run on habits. So in a creativity session, you just don't allow any judgment, and then you terminate that. You leave the room, then you come back for the innovation section. And
I think you're just calling it different things.
No, it's the structure. To me, it's the structure. It's like the idea of, it's like in a lab, if you want you want something with no disease.
You really need to be right on this.
No, this is my shot. And I think that comes from the IDEO session, and they did not make the distinction between creativity and innovation. What they said was they were a company that ran the process of creativity. Right. And now vocabulary is important.
Words are important.
And when you talk creativity, there should be no judgment. And you want to habit people so that we're having a creativity session, and you're not going to have one in a business. No,
there will be more than one.
You'll have more in a business, and you'll have them with different groups. So we're trying to train people when you come to the creativity session. Bring your costumes, bring your furries, bring your bathing suit, bring your whatever you want to bring. And come be wild, wacky, no judgment, no anything else.
Well, and
then stop.
And
when you put on, sorry,
go ahead.
When you put on the schedule, this is an innovation section. Now they're going to bring judgment in. So the idea of coming up with a lot of new ideas may not happen. You're going to have fewer ideas, and you're going to have more judgment, more analytical.
That's right. That's the convergent thinking. And what you just described, you called it a creativity session.
The last one was the innovation.
Yes. At the beginning, you called it, let's do the creativity and that is the stage 1, which I call the brainstorming session.
Right.
And so it's a tool for generating and developing creative ideas, solving problems, and it also fosters teamwork because, that's where everyone stays open and you just say it's a yes and technique or a yes and stage where you could say yes and then we can do this. So there is no yes but in there, right? So it's just adding on to things. And so in order to get the most out of your brainstorming, it does take skill, which is why they call me in to be able to run it, because you need to be able to really prepare well, understand human nature, like you were saying, because people are hardwired for negativity and judgment, and you have to be able to facilitate them and debrief that section well. Like you said, stopping at that divergent section, giving them a chance to incubate, and then having another section for the convergent, which you call the innovation, which is the utilizing the ideas that make the most sense. So what I wanted to do is explain a little bit about how I would run a brainstorming meeting.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah. So the number one rule.
Now wait, just so that I can have some skin in this game.
Yeah.
Brainstorming in the creativity or brainstorming in the innovation?
There is no brainstorming in innovation. It's
and that's where you're missing it. Brainstorming is a tool. You can use brainstorming in the creativity where no judgment. You can also use brainstorming in the innovation where there's likely to be judgment. So they are two different phases for me.
Okay. So what I'm using it for is
for the creativity.
the preparation stage where you take in all ideas. It's at the divergent thinking phase where you have an issue and you need to come up with a new way of seeing things, of looking at things sideways, upside down, et cetera, et cetera. And you want to prepare your people. So you want to let them know the purpose of your brainstorming session and communicate it with people in advance. We're going to, look, this isn't working well. We need new ideas. So we're going to all sit down and come up with ideas. Then you're going to give them a comfortable environment that encourages that participation and especially that divergent thinking. Here's the thing. If you are the leader in this, you cannot give your ideas first. And I would even take a step back from this. Sometimes I would even give tell their manager, whatever, don't come.
Well, yes, I agree with that. And you and I have talked about this before. We wouldn't even call him a leader. We call him a facilitator. The minute you call him a leader, they're likely to get hero leadership.
Yes.
And then the next thing, they think they have all the answers. And their job as a facilitator is to get the ideas out of the audience and to create the environment.
You're a meeting MC.
Right.
That's what you are.
Okay.
And then you use all the tools and methods to, capture ideas, visualize them, and that would depend on whether you're in person or online, everything from sticky notes to whiteboards and all that kind of stuff. And, mind mapping. Do you know what brain writing is? Okay. So for those of you who don't, it's when...
I talked to several of my dead relatives with brain writing.
There you go. So it's when you write down a bunch of ideas. This is really for in person. You write down all your ideas and then you pass them to the person on your left or, on your right. You can go either way. I'm doing this and I'm going to the right because I'm left-handed. And then you take the ideas from that next person and then you build on them. And then you get like little family trees, things like that. Then there's also figure storming. What would whoever do? How would, you pick a famous person or, how, and figure what they would do. There's scamper, which is substitute, combine, adapt, modify, purpose. What's a purpose? Eliminate. And what's the other one? Rearrange, reverse. All this gives you different ways of, so there's a boatload of them.
Do we have Taylor storming now? What would Taylor Swift do?
You can absolutely do that. What would Taylor Swift do? Well, she knows something because, Anyway, and then you have to, make sure that everyone feels comfortable because there is such a thing as forced fun.
Right.
And if someone is quieter, they don't really want to.
I don't want to be here.
Yeah, they don't want to contribute. And
ideas.
And they could, maybe just write things down and then give it to you afterwards. Making everyone contribute, even if they don't want to, it doesn't work. And if you make them play the games, even if they don't want to, that's not the best idea because resentment can happen. And it's, as a facilitator, you're right. Your job is to keep them focused and engaged. And then you can either stop there and then finish it with the convergent part another time. And then, so bottom line is the brainstorming session is a session in and of itself. It's not part of the Monday morning meeting, or, we have to figure out, who we're keeping or who we're firing, or, whatever it is. It's strictly on its own.
Very, very good. Very, very good. And so first of all, I've heard and experienced your creativity classes, and they're great, and the audience responds really well, and you do this masterfully. I'm just somebody who compartmentalizes. I have the case for a week. I have my suitcase for overnight. They're all packed with like 3/4 of this stuff.
And I like choice, so I bring 12 different pairs.
I've got my diving boxes. I've got my ski box. Everything is compartmentalized, and so I'm a compartmental guy. Here's the thing, though. Yeah. Look, you have to make a choice. It's either me or this person called Google. You're going to listen to one of us. It's me or the Google.
I choose Google.
Okay. Oh, Jiminy Christmas. All right.
And you know what? I don't think we're that far off. I think the names of things are different. And I do see your point of view in terms of the innovation section. I just call it convergent thinking as opposed to divergent thinking. And it's not always great to have it all in one, because you want people to have that openness for a while so that their subconscious mind can fill that hole. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Okay, I need support on this one. So if you agree with me, you're gonna have to respond, because most of the people that listen to the podcast, a lot of them are Rona's play friends, and they're of course gonna side with Rona.
So if you compartmentalize and are black and white, you can be
for Jeffrey, not Google. Google and Rona.
Yeah, just email us. It's either is it Rona? It's Rona at Biz-Souls.
Yeah, and Jeffrey at Biz-Souls.
Yeah, there's a hyphen, or go on the website, or just write a comment when you see this on YouTube, and subscribe. It definitely helps the channel a lot.
It does. The last message I got on Biz-Souls was in Chinese. So I have a lot of Chinese fans, obviously.
It was a bot or something.
No, it couldn't have been. Somebody out there likes me.
That's right. There's one. Anyway. All right. That is it for this interesting chat today. This was actually very good.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, I certainly enjoyed it.
Okay. Anyways, that's it for us. This has been Biz-Souls. I'm Rona Lewis.
I'm Jeffrey Hansler.
We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Biz-Souls podcast with your hosts, Rona Lewis and Jeffrey Hansler. Did you have fun? Subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It's very much appreciated. Talk to you next week.